Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm chatting with Jeff Winter, Vice President of Business Strategy at Critical Manufacturing. Jeff's been at the forefront of Industry 4.0, digital transformation, and ranked number one in the world by Analytica, number one in the world by Manufacturing Digital Magazine. He's extremely active on LinkedIn with over 70 million views. I'm one of those followers, and I'm really looking forward to hearing his take on what's happening in the manufacturing world right now. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here today.
So, Jeff, you've been watching closely how emerging tech meets real operational needs. When you look ahead at the next few years, which Industry 4.0 trends do you think are really going to move the needle for manufacturers?
So that's a fun question because the world of manufacturing is just evolving so quickly and there's so much to be excited about. So to me, here's the way I like to think about it. The best way to understand where we're headed is to break it into four parts. How we work, how we manufacture, how we manage people and things and processes, and the value that we provide to customers. And each of these areas is kind of going through its own transformation right now. So if we start with how we work. So right now we're seeing workers get a major upgrade in tools. And in most cases, it's mobile devices or tablets, but it's also wearables and even augmented reality headsets in certain situations. And these are helping people to do their jobs faster, safer, and with more precision. Think real time data and hands free instructions right where you need them. But in 3 to 5 years, I think we're going to start to see AI assistants enter the picture. So you're going to see training will feel like playing a video game with virtual reality, where workers will have predictive insights at their fingertips, not just data at their fingertips to get ahead with problems potentially even before they happen. Now, if you look at the second one, how we manufacture. So, right now, factories are becoming more connected and more automated and more intelligent. We're seeing a lot of modernization and optimization projects that are happening right now. In fact, according to IoT analytics, the number of connected IoT devices is at a whopping 18.8 billion devices. And that doesn't even include laptops and cell phones. And it's these devices that are creating an unprecedented revolution in data generation. And this gives us visibility and potentially control over our processes today. But in 3 to 5 years, I think AI will be intimately involved, analyzing all this data, predicting outcomes and issues, or identifying inefficiencies or anomalies. And in some cases, the AI will be directly controlling these devices and these processes. The third is related to how we manage. And this is the one that I don't hear people talking about that often. If you look at LNS research, the workforce of 2019 is not coming back. The average tenure in 2019 for manufacturing employees in the United States was around 20 years. In 2023, 3 years. The average time in a position in 2019 was 7 years. And in 2023, 9 months. That's a crazy shift in just a few years. And it's forcing manufacturers to rethink how we manage both people and processes. Manufacturers are scrambling to adapt to this new transient workforce, putting pressures on using technologies to capture employee knowledge before they leave and to use it to help onboard new employees faster. Plus, it's changing how we manage the processes by having more remote monitoring capabilities and remote control capabilities. In 3 to 5 years, I think we're going to see a completely new way of onboarding employees where training is basically entirely on the job, assisted with technology. And knowledge management systems will use knowledge graphs, which will completely reshape the way that we'll make decisions by having more of the right data presented to the right people at the right time. And lastly, number four is how we provide value. So we're seeing a big shift in manufacturers creating new revenue streams from data monetization, from creating software and digital services instead of just physical goods or hardware. We're also seeing a huge shift in personalization and customization of products. And more products are even being built with intelligence built into them and focusing on the customer experience as part of the sale. I mean, smart products alone will continue to involve kind of post purchase with everything from over the air updates and even predictive analytics that can be given back to the customer to help understand how they might use the products in the future. So we're going to create a totally different way of engaging with products, with selling products, and with providing value. So those are the four big kind of areas I would say I'm seeing trends take shape.
Exciting times for these changes. And Jeff, to piggyback off of that, I know a lot of companies are trying to adapt to these changes, and many are talking about digital transformation. But I think we've seen that people define it differently, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. In your eyes and in your experience, what are some of the common misunderstandings that you're seeing when people are trying to do digital transformation, and what is it really all about?
We could have a whole episode on just this one topic. So I'm going to try and just do a lightning round version with, I will say, my top three. So the first big misconception I have is it's all about technology. I mean, many believe digital transformation is simply implementing new technology. And that's why we hear all these technology related initiatives that come up in companies. But the reality is, technology is just a tool. Transformation is about fundamentally rethinking processes and your culture and even your business models. So to overcome this, I like to emphasize Simon Sinek's golden circle. You start with why. Understanding the purpose and outcomes of transformation helps align the organization around meaningful goals rather than just tech for new tech stakes. So modernization is all about tech. Transformation is all about people. It starts and ends with people. So the second big misconception is selecting the right products is the key to success. Many manufacturers believe that choosing the perfect software for digital transformation is one of the most critical decisions that you can make. But in reality, while the right tools are important, the real focus should be on selecting the right partners. So the products you start with will likely evolve over time as your transformation matures, because transformation takes many years. And software updates and new features are constant. And most tools can be customized to meet your needs. So the journey is about much more than the tool itself. I mean, it includes everything from training and support and guidance, which are equally as critical. So instead, I kind of like to shift the conversation from what product should we buy to who should we partner with. A strong partner will evolve with you, offering expertise, support, and flexibility to ensure your long term success in this transformation. And I emphasize the importance of evaluating a company's culture, their roadmap, and their ability to grow with your organization. And the third misconception is that it's a one-time project. Digital transformation is often viewed as a one and done initiative. And we've all heard the phrase, though, "Well, it's a journey, not a destination." Now, while the journey highlights the uncharted paths and the necessary pivots, people often forget, though, that there is a destination at the end. So you need to have a clear goal to achieve. So transformation requires agility as you learn new things along the way in your journey and your need to pivot quickly. A waterfall approach rarely works because the whole point of a transformation is to radically change how things are done, which demands flexibility and adaptation. And that's why I like the phrase set the destination, but focus on the journey. Having a destination ensures alignment, but the journey demands adaptability to reach it successfully. And agile methodologies enable flexibility to adjust and improve to new challenges or opportunities that arise along the way.
That's awesome. So, as you talked about, when companies are looking to make these massive changes, it is a journey. You have to set that destination. I know a lot of times, at least in the companies that we've worked with, and I know, and you've mentioned this before, that companies have a tendency to want to set these big goals. They want to go down and have this large transformation. And you've spoken about through your thought leadership content about the art of the possible versus the art of the practical. Sort of reminds me of my grandmother telling me my eyes are bigger than my stomach. Oftentimes, we want to set really large, lofty goals, those big, hairy goals. But how do we do that? How do you help companies set those large goals without losing sight of what they can realistically achieve in the short term?
So, good question. You have to understand the art of the possible is about dreaming big. It's about exploring what's achievable with today's technologies and pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whereas the art of the practical, on the other hand, is about kind of grounding those dreams in reality, considering a company's specific size, culture, data maturity, resources, and a whole bunch of other things to create strategies that work in the real world. So, Balancing these visionary goals with the real world constraints means aligning these two perspectives. I would say first, I suggest companies identify their boldest, most inspiring objectives. Then we tailor an action plan to respect, I would say, their unique limitations. And that could be budget, could be skill, could be timeline, a whole bunch of other things, but still while stretching them toward their potential. It's a give and take. You need to have a bold vision that sparks action, but practical steps help ensure that the journey is sustainable and delivers results. The biggest thing I want to make sure companies don't do is set their aims, their goals, and their vision too low just because they weren't aware of what was possible.
I love that. And so once we have that vision, we have that goal, we have that big destination, I think that drives a lot of folks to get really excited, wanting to modernize. How do you sort of look inwardly as an organization and know whether they're actually ready to make the leap into that digital transformation journey? What are the things that you look for to help folks make the decision as to whether they're ready to jump?
It's a good question. I would say when helping a manufacturer, I'm going to call it assess their readiness for digital transformation, I kind of like to focus on three areas, at least at a high level. Vision, infrastructure, and culture. So first, does the company even have a clear understanding of why they want to transform? Kind of like the Simon Sinek golden circle I mentioned earlier, a strong why aligns teams and ensures the efforts are about more than just chasing a technology trend or implementing or doing a project. The second is I like to look at the current infrastructure. Are their systems and probably more importantly, are their data even ready to support the transformation? Because without having these solid foundations in place, even the best plans are going to crumble. And third is culture's huge. Are employees and leadership even open to change? I mean, transformation, like I've said before, isn't just about the technology, it's all about the people. And if they're not ready to embrace new ways of working, progress will just naturally stall. So it's not about being perfect in any of these areas. It's about understanding where they are and having a roadmap to address these gaps. And obviously, there's a lot more to it than this, but I think this is a good starting point for how I like to approach it, at least starting off.
Just to go into something else you mentioned in a similar sort of area is talking about AI and prediction and how the future state looks really really cool. That's one of the things I'm most excited to talk about with you here today. I know that AI as it currently stands is not the most straightforward tool to harness. So I'm wondering, as we're looking to get into AI and implement that more and more in our operations, what are the biggest hurdles that you're seeing folks run into? And what are the types of strategies and approaches that you think companies can take to actually leverage AI for what its true potential is?
Well, this is a perfect tee up for me to share some good statistics. But when I do that, I want to kind of separate out, AI from IoT. And so I want to talk about both of these, especially as they're related. So let's start with IoT. So Microsoft, in their 2023 Digital Operations Report, which was almost entirely related to IoT, said that their top challenge for manufacturing was missing capabilities in house, and the second highest was the complexity of implementation and integration. Now, keep that in mind as we then jump into AI, which I'm going to spend a little bit more time on because AI is a newer, hotter topic and much broader in its application. So I have a lot more to go over here. So if you look at Rootstock's 2024 State of AI in Manufacturing report, the biggest barriers to adoption include lack of internal knowledge at 49%, difficulty integrating with existing systems at 43%, and high implementation cost at 37%, which, if you noticed, are similar to the IoT challenges. And according to MIT Technology Review in their 2024 report, talent, skills, and data are the main constraints in AI scaling, with 57% citing inadequate data quality and 54% citing weak data integration as barriers. And according to Microsoft's 2024 Accelerating Industrial Transformation Report, nearly half of all the surveyed manufacturers, is like 44%, I think, report that skills gaps are significant obstacles to adopting all the new technologies like AI and IoT. And my last one I have here is according to LXT in their 2024 AI Path to Maturity report, which actually covers all industries, not just manufacturing. They highlighted that 39% of AI projects fail to meet their goals due to issues like specifically integration challenges and inadequate preparation. So hopefully, if you paid attention, you kind of noticed a little trend here between technologies and even across industries. So when you look at those challenges for IoT, manufacturers can address challenges by, I would say, adopting modular solutions that simplify integration and kind of providing targeted training to specific people to help close some of those capability gaps. Because we noticed integration and knowledge or skill were the two main themes there. For AI, overcoming obstacles like skill shortage and data quality requires a lot more effort on upskilling the workforce because a lot more people are going to be involved with AI. You have the people that are going to be training AI models and integrating AI, and then you have a lot more people who are going to be using them. And so you need to train and upskill both groups of people. In addition, you still need to implement unified data systems, and I suggest using kind of agile approaches to ensure successful deployment. The key here is simplifying technology adoption and equipping your teams with the right skills and building strong, scalable data foundations.
Assuming I am going down that path, agile methodology for making sure I'm combining things in the right way. I'm curious about the synergies with, you mentioned IoT and AI and how the challenges with deploying them are very similar. I'm curious, when they are deployed right, what does that synergy look like when it's done well? Do you have any examples? Have you seen out in the field when the two of them are done really well and how they've been used?
So I'd say there's probably a lot more than you think out there because these concepts are even starting to blur some of the lines, and the convergence of IoT and AI, sometimes even called now AIoT, is reshaping manufacturing by combining the real-time data collection of IoT with AI's advanced analytics, at least one of their capabilities to drive smarter, faster decision making in operations. And so IoT devices, anything from just your sensors to just connected machinery, they're continually generating or at least capturing vast amount of data while AI processes this information to optimize operations and a lot of times automate workflows. And a prime example is predictive maintenance, where IoT sensors monitor equipment performance and the AI analyzes the data to predict failures before they occur. And this approach, adopted by companies like Daimler Trucks, which has a public case study on this, has led to 50 to 70% reduction in downtime. Now, another key area for AIoT is edge computing. By processing IoT data locally, yet still running AI models locally, edge systems can enable real time decision making while improving data security potentially, and even just, well, definitely reducing latency. So, IoT Analytics, in their state of IoT report for the summer of 2024, highlights that companies are increasingly adopting edge AI platforms to enhance their operations. With, I think they said, 13 edge AI related products just launched in 2024 alone. And these innovations are driving significant ROI. I think they said over 91% of manufacturers reported positive ROI from IoT use cases, especially involving AI in 2024. So, another compelling example I would say with IoT and AI working together is energy management within factories. So, IoT sensors, real time energy consumption across machines and systems. And then you can provide granular insights into all sorts of, usage patterns. The AI once again analyzes this data to identify inefficiencies or predict peak energy demand and potentially even automatically adjust energy loads to reduce different costs or even carbon footprints. And this type of system, which most likely is supported by Edge AI, can process the data locally, ensuring faster adjustments and secure operations.
Pretty cool stuff. I'm really curious now to think about, let's say we're putting those things into place. You mentioned folks are driving ROI from these devices, and I'm wondering how you actually quantify that. So it's obviously there are some pretty tangible efficiency gains and impacts on downtime you mentioned. And I know you mentioned a few other use cases there, but knowing that deploying these technologies can be costly, and quantifying that ROI can be pretty tricky. Do you have any advice for companies that are looking to make the decision? Is this worth it? What metrics should I put in place to determine whether an investment is? I know another thing you mentioned is that challenges with AI and IoT is the upfront deployment work. You need to plan, you need to strategize, you need to make sure there are implementation costs that are preventing some folks from doing this. Any advice for companies that are thinking about this and how they should be thinking about the ROI of these types of investments?
Well, measuring ROI on IoT investments, especially for long term or less tangible benefits, can be a challenge for some companies because it involves focusing on metrics that can align with operational improvements or even sustainability goals or strategic objectives. Remember, I just said in that IoT analytics report, 91% of organizations reported a positive ROI from their IoT use cases in 2024. But what I didn't tell you is that is a significant increase. It was like 78% or something like that from 2021. And this suggests that companies are increasingly successful at identifying and measuring the tangible benefits when they're approaching these projects, and that's focusing more on things like reduced downtime, improved efficiency, or even enhanced asset performance. But in the 2023 Digital Operations Report, this one shows how expediting ROI realization is starting to take shape, such as reducing the time for businesses in case development. And they're showing how it went from 8 months to 3 months. That's a 63% reduction. And they're encouraging faster decisions on like a build versus buy strategies. And they also talk about how prioritizing use cases that address clear pain points, anything from predictive maintenance is one of the top ones out there, process automation, they're enabling companies to achieve quicker paybacks and scalable benefits. So if you look at the entire process from how projects are identified through how they are implemented, we're seeing everything shorten and increase in its success and its ROI. But ROI is just one of many ways to measure the success of a tech related or IoT project. And if we only focus on ROI, we're prioritizing financial returns by calculating net benefits, such as everything from cost savings or increased revenue, and just dividing by the total investment cost. And this can include direct savings, like I said, from reduced downtime or increased productivity or lower maintenance expenses. But it's also important to consider the full scope of implementation cost, including the hardware, the software, the training, the ongoing support. And while ROI provides a clear percentage-based metric, it also may overlook the intangible or long-term benefits that are harder to quantify, especially when you're not doing a modernization or optimization project, but when you're doing a transformation project. And so if we focus on other methods, we can measure success across broader categories. So for operational efficiency, KPIs, like improved equipment utilization, faster cycle times, fewer productivity errors. You can even highlight day-to-day values that you're seeing. Sustainability metrics are another huge area that you can look at that may be a byproduct of your initiative but not the primary reason you're going to grade your project's success. And this could be anything from energy savings, carbon footprint reduction. That's a good example of there may not be an ROI there, but there may be a massive value to carbon footprint reduction. Anything from if you start to look on the marketing side, from net promoter scores or improved delivery times for customer satisfaction. So when you combine ROI with these other measures, you can offer a more comprehensive view of both the immediate and long-term benefits, ensuring that you're capturing the full value. So whenever anyone asks, hey, I will talk about the ROI on this project, I like to go, ROI is great, but let's shrink it and include it as one of many ways that we're going to look at the success or value of this initiative.
Well, I wanted to go back to a point you made just a minute ago about that Microsoft study that was sharing the stats about, I think you said 73% of organizations were seeing ROI from their digital transformation or IoT investments in 2021. And then comparing that to now, it was almost about 91%, you said. I was curious to dig in a little bit more, and knowing that you've been in this industry 4.0 space over the years and you've been able to see how it's changed, and you've been in the room with conversations with executives and leaders as they talk about digital transformation. I'm really curious to see because this might have some indicator as to why that change has occurred. What have you seen has changed in those conversations about digital transformation from now to say 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Sure. So one thing you have to remember is my Industry 4.0 journey actually started at the end of 2018 when the subject was basically assigned to me. So before then, I'd never actually heard of the term or the concept, but I quickly fell in love with it. So I'm only going to comment on since my focus of it. I've been in manufacturing my whole career, but I haven't focused on the bigger, broader concepts of Industry 4.0 and digital transformation until 2018. So when it came to the technology, back then in let's say 2018, IoT, big data, and blockchain, just a few, those were probably the hottest buzzwords at the time. But today, you have things more like digital twins, edge computing, and even protocols like MQTT, and of course, artificial intelligence. But if you look at those terms on Google Trends, and you're going to notice that the first ones I talk about are declining down in their search appearances, and that second group is increasing. So that just shows the shift of the technology topics that are occurring. But in addition, cybersecurity is now much more of a critical component with increased interconnectivity. Cybersecurity has shifted from being I'm going to call it an afterthought. If you actually look at some of the first principles of Industry 4.0 that came out, cybersecurity wasn't really mentioned. And now it's a fundamental aspect of Industry 4.0. And so the rise of sophisticated cyber threats has made security infrastructure is just like a core component of the discussions, with more emphasis on everything from end-to-end encryption and secure communication protocols and just advanced threat detection mechanisms. Another thing I would say is sustainability and green manufacturing in recent years has increased dramatically. So now we're not talking about the technology, we're talking about what companies are doing. So Industry 4.0 has increasingly incorporated sustainability goals as a part of it. Digital technologies are now being used not just for efficiency, but to reduce environmental impact, optimizing resource consumption and just circular economy principles. But then on top of that, you have the workforce transformation. So the concept of Industry 4.0 now includes a much more nuanced understanding of human machine collaboration rather than just viewing kind of automation as potentially replacement for human workers. There's now a focus on upskilling and creating collaborative environments and developing technologies that augment human capabilities. So these are just a lot of the major shifts that you're seeing in the approach of Industry 4.0 as our knowledge as a society, as our knowledge as companies are learning more about that art of the possible, and then bring it down to the art of the practical as we're seeing more companies be successful. The whole concept of the World Economic Forum lighthouse programs didn't even exist back then. And now there are these, top 172 lighthouses, at least as of last month, that are shining the way for examples for companies to replicate. This gives the leaders of companies something to look for, something to look towards. And because they're all public, they can learn from them. They can learn from their goals, their approaches, their strategies, and the success of it. So it is shaping the conversations in many different ways, from the technology to the objectives to the strategy and to leveraging other companies' successes.
With all of those different changes, and I heard you mention how executives of these companies are thinking about change. There are different changes that are taking place, everything from things that are on the factory floor all the way through business analytics and executive decision making, and everybody is impacted by these digital transformation initiatives. Have you seen, in your experience, communication strategies that help people get aligned? So, getting everyone on board, getting everyone engaged, whether you're in the C suite, your middle management, you're actually working on the floor, you have an intimate awareness of the operation and the machines themselves, for example. Have you seen ways that this digital transformation has been communicated well? And what strategies maybe could help there is bridging the gap on that change and communicating that out with all the different stakeholders?
Getting everyone from the C-suite down to the production line, frontline workers aligned on a transformation story is hard. I kind of envision it's trying to get like an orchestra, because I go to a lot of the symphonies with my wife, and it's trying to get this orchestra to all play together in tune, knowing everyone has their own instrument, everyone has their own rhythm, everyone has their own skill, but you need to understand how they all contribute together to play beautiful music. And you need a conductor leading that charge. And so here's kind of what I've seen work best. First off, you have to tailor the story to the audience. The C suite cares about the big picture. They care about the value, they care about the ROI, they care about market competitiveness, risk mitigation, all these different topics. They need to hear about that why, the long term vision, and the strategic advantage. On the other hand, the production line, they want to know more about the how. They want to know what's changing in their day to day and how it's going to make their jobs easier or better or help them achieve their goals that they have. The key is to speak their language in all cases. You can't sell a vision of AI and automation to a frontline worker by rattling off buzzwords and transformational capabilities. You have to show them how it will reduce their tedious tasks or prevent machine downtime. Make it real for them. So the key here is to make it about empowerment, not replacement. So I've seen the most successful approaches demonstrate how these new technologies make their jobs easier by showing them a specific example. So the best communication strategy here is related to storytelling. Storytelling isn't just a communication technique, it's the absolute core of driving true transformation. Let's be clear here. What we're talking about with Industry 4.0 isn't just an upgrade, it's not continuous improvement. This is a fundamental reimagining of how an entire organization operates. This means you need a new narrative that everyone can see, everyone can feel, and everyone can understand. And that's why there's even a lot of storytelling classes that you can take out there now, and a lot of leaders are taking them. So, the most powerful stories out there, I would say, do three things. First, they create a compelling vision that's bigger than any single department or any single role. Second, they help every person see themselves within that vision to understand how their particular role, how their department is helping to create that vision. And third, they make the abstract feel tangible and exciting. And this is where we go from talking about vague concepts like digital transformation to a more vivid scenario. So imagine this story instead of just saying we're going to do digital transformation to change our company. Imagine starting your day with a holographic dashboard that shows you exactly what's happening across your global operations. You'll see how a machine adjustment that you made in one plant is being learned and applied to another machine in another continent. Your work isn't just isolated anymore, it's connected, it's intelligent, and it's making a global impact. So now suddenly, complex technology concepts become more thrilling, and they become a more personal experience, and you tailor that message to every single person in the company that is a part of it.
That's so helpful. And I know some folks in our audience that we've worked with, I think that's really going to resonate because that's a challenge we often see is getting everyone to go into the same direction. And I know we talked about different roles within the organization. The other piece that we've seen is also interdepartmental or inter-team sort of silos where transformation can happen either, with OT, IT convergence, so operations side, IT side, sometimes they're not aligned. And that's another challenge we have, even outside of just hierarchical different needs. Have you had any, examples, or are there any tips you could provide for folks who are struggling to drive that alignment between operations and IT to make sure we're all going together into the same on that same journey in the same direction of that big goal?
Well, breaking down those traditional silos is where most digital transformations either fly or die, because breaking down these silos is brutally hard. And it's hard because most companies are built on decades of entrenched departmental cultures with deeply ingrained ways of working and even potentially competing priorities, and often unspoken territorial dynamics that make genuine collaboration feel more of a threat potentially than an opportunity. So you really need to start by blowing up the typical departmental boundaries. And I've seen the most successful transformations create cross-functional teams with shared KPIs, not IT metrics, not operations metrics, but business-wide metrics that force collaboration. Think about creating a tiger team where your IT guru sits right next to your operations manager. They're both measured on the same outcomes. And training is critical here, but not just boring corporate kind of training. I'm talking about immersive experiences where teams actually work together on real problems. Maybe that's a workshop where IT operations and finance all solve a specific business challenge together. Or have someone from your IT team go out and work on the shop floor for a few weeks. Put people in other people's shoes. The goal is to build trust and mutual understanding by understanding other people's situations. And it works. The bottom line, transformation isn't a technology project, it's a people project. Get the people talking, get them aligned, and get them excited. And the tech part will become a lot easier.
I love this. This is a really good playbook I can see forming here for driving this digital transformation initiatives. Another piece that I know I've heard and we've seen is there's a difference between leadership or executive approval and true championing, and when they're really bought in and driving it, and that seems to make a really big difference. Do you have any advice around, in your experience, like what kind of pushes it over the line from approving to fully championing as an executive? Do you have any advice there?
Well, great leaders don't just approve projects, they believe in them. They understand that true transformation isn't about what you do, but why you do it. So, when an executive truly champions an initiative, it's because they've connected the technological changes to a deeper organizational purpose. And it's not about these new systems anymore. It's about fundamentally reimagining how we create value, how we serve our customers, and how we empower our own people, our own employees. And the most inspiring leaders ask, what is the human story behind this transformation? They don't get excited about the metrics or the technologies. They get excited about the potential, about how these changes can unlock human creativity or solve meaningful problems or create a new future for the company, and how they push the boundaries of what's possible. So when leaders start to understand that why, when they can see how these initiatives connect to the organization's deeper mission, that's when approval transforms into passionate advocacy. That's when a project moves from being a corporate initiative to becoming a movement.
I'd love to see more of these movements out there. um, Speaking of, I know we're sort of coming towards the end of our time here. Was really curious to hear, just to open the floor to your thoughts and your the things that drive you, that you're really excited about personally within manufacturing and emerging technologies, Industry 4.0. Is there anything that you could share with us that's personally making you think, hey, like this new technology or this new emerging approach is going to be a game changer?
Well, obviously, artificial intelligence. Everyone is eager to see what it will do, where it will make the biggest impact first, and how it will transform industries, departments, and roles and everything. Because it's no longer a question of if, but how fast we can unlock this potential. And companies are racing to figure out how to use AI, not just as a tool, but as a competitive edge. So I'm not going to go over that one today. What I want to go over is a more specific area that I'm excited about, and one that I wish were talked about more. And it's knowledge graphs, especially industrial knowledge graphs. And so what makes knowledge graphs different from, let's just say, traditional databases or even vector databases is that they don't just store the data, they define and map relationships between pieces of information in a way that reflects real world interactions. And they're built on graph theory, where you have nodes that represent entities like machines or parts, and then edges, which can represent their connections like dependencies or processes. And this structure allows for semantic context, enabling the system to understand not just the data, but the meaning behind it. And in an industrial setting, this is transformative. Imagine a factory where every persona that you have, whether it's maintenance technicians, production managers, or even executives, can access the exact information they need, contextually linked to their roles and their decisions that they need to make. For example, a technician can instantly trace how a sensor anomaly, tracks back to one of the machines and the impact it will have upstream and downstream on equipment. But a manager will see different different stuff. They're going to see how this issue disrupts production schedules and how it can identify bottlenecks, versus an executive looking at the exact same thing will see a bigger picture view of the operational risks, the financial implications, and even the potential for supply chain delays. So this capability isn't just about better data management, it's about enabling smarter AI initiatives in the future. But I really do think that in the next couple of years, the companies that embrace knowledge graphs are going to completely change the way that they make decisions as a company.
That's incredibly exciting. Knowledge graphs sound like a game changer. I appreciate you sharing all of that, Jeff. And I know as we're coming to a close here, we have some folks who I know are going to be diehard Jeff Winter fans. We'll have some newer folks on here. Maybe this is their first time hearing from you. I'm glad we get to share that with them. Would love to learn just a little bit more about you is as you're continuing your work in this field and you're pioneering a lot of this and you're bringing all these insights to us, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I'm curious where you see yourself focusing. I know you came into this space in 2018, and I would love to know where you think the impact that you're going to have and what you're hoping to focus on in the industry as we're evolving here.
So you mean besides continuing to use LinkedIn to spark conversation, share insights, and throw in a fun Lego video post to keep things interesting?
Please keep doing that too. Yes.
But I'd say, kind of honestly, beyond the LinkedIn fame, if you want to call it, my real focus is on advancing the manufacturing industry as a whole. And this means getting involved with all the right groups: government, institutes, and bodies shaping policy, academic teams driving research, nonprofits pushing everything from, causes like sustainability, and yes, even for-profit companies that are developing cutting-edge technology. I'm getting more and more involved in those groups that are making an impact. And my goal is to connect the dots across these ecosystems so that not we're just talking about like industry 4.0 as a broad concept, but we're actually starting to deliver on its promise: smarter factories, stronger economies, a better work experience, and more resilient supply chains. And as for the impact, I want manufacturers to not just survive, but thrive in this era of transformation. And if I can inspire companies to think differently and to embrace bold changes and maybe even have a laugh along the way, then I feel like I'm doing my job. Industry 4.0 is, you could argue, it's today and it's still the future, but I'm here to make sure that everyone sees it and they jump in before the wave passes them by.
I love it. So glad you're doing that. It's been an absolute joy for myself to follow you. I'm sure a lot of other folks who are watching this are going to be looking forward to following all of your future updates as well. I recommend checking out some of his old Lego videos. They are awesome. And so, Jeff, I just want to say thank you again so much for your time. Really appreciate all the insights that you've shared and that you continue to share. We're going to be continuing to follow you, of course. For everybody who's listening, we hope that this conversation helped shed some light on what's happening in Industry 4.0. I think you did a really nice job of highlighting some steps that you can take to move forward confidently in your own digital transformation journey. I highly encourage you to follow Jeff on LinkedIn so you can participate in this conversation. There's a really great community there. And in the meantime, please stay tuned to our channel as well for more discussions, and we'll see you next time.